Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Thank you for joining me as I continue the rich poetry found in Tolkien's epic poem, The Lay of Leithian. Now, when we last left this epic, Beren was about to say goodbye to everything he'd ever known. Then Luthien showed up and said, "We've got a dog to consider here." And today we conclude Canto 12 as Huan speaks. Ere long they knew, for Huan came, his great breath panting, eyes like flame, in fear lest her whom he forsook to aid some hunting evil took ere he was nigh. Now there he laid before their feet as dark as shade, two grisly shapes that they had won from that tall isle in Sirion. A wolfhame huge, its savage fell was long and matted, dark the spell that drenched the dreadful coat and skin, the werewolf cloak of Traugluin. The other was a bat-like garb with mighty fingered wings, a barb like iron nail at each joint's end, such wings as their dark cloud extend against the moon when in the sky from deadly nightshades screeching fly Sauron's messengers. What is brought, good Huan? What is thy hidden thought? Of trophy of prowess and strong deed, when Sauron thou vanquishedst, what need here in the waste? Thus Beren spoke, and once more words in Huan woke. His voice was like the deep-toned bells that ring in Valmar's citadels. Of one fair gem thou must be thief, Morgoth's or Thingol's, Loth or Leaf. Thou one must choose, exile or oath. Though vow to break is still thee loath, know that Luthien must either die alone or death with thee defy, beside thee, marching on your fate that hidden before you lies in wait. For Luthien now in thy doom's snare, in love must in thy dying share. In exile you would seek in vain for peace, but rather find there pain. Hopeless the quest, but not yet mad, unless thou, Beren, run thus clad, in mortal raiment, mortal hue, witless and reedless, death to woo. Lo, good was Felagund's device, but may be bettered if advice of Huan ye will dare to take, and swift a hideous change will make to forms most cursed, foul and vile, of werewolf of the wizard's isle, of monstrous bats ever mind fell, with ghostly claw-like wings of hell. To such dark straits, alas, now brought are ye I love, for whom I fought, nor further with you can I go. Whoever did a great hound know in friendship at a werewolf's side, to Angban's grinning portals stride. Yet my heart tells that at the gate, what there ye find, 'twill be my fate myself to see, though to that door my feet shall bear me nevermore. Darkened is hope and dimmed my eyes, I see not clear what further lies, yet maybe backwards leads your path, beyond all hope to Doriath. And thither, perchance, we three shall wend, and meet again before the end. They stood and marveled thus to hear his mighty tongue so deep and clear. Then sudden he vanished from their sight, even at the onset of the night. His dreadful counsel then they took, and their own gracious forms forsook, and werewolf fell and bat-like wing prepared to robe them, shuddering. An elvish enchantment Luthien wrought, lest raiment foul with evil fraught to dreadful madness drive their hearts. And there she wrought, with elvish arts, a strong defense, a binding power, singing until the midnight hour. Swift as the wolvish coat he wore, Beren lay slavering on the floor, red-tongued and hungry, but there lies a pain and longing in his eyes, a look of horror as he sees a bat-like form crawl to its knees and drag its creased and creaking wings. Then howling under moon he springs, four-footed, swift, from stone to stone, from hill to plain, but not alone. A dark shape down the slope doth skim, and wheeling flitters over him. Ashes and dust and thirsty dune, withered and dry beneath the moon, under the cold and shifting air, sifting and sighing, bleak and bare. Of blistered stones and gasping sand, of splintered bones was built that land, o'er which now slinks with powdered fell and hanging tongue a shape of hell. Many parching leagues lay still before when sickly day crept back once more. Many choking miles yet stretched ahead when shivering night once more was spread with doubtful shadow and ghostly sound that hissed and passed o'er dune and mound. A second morning in cloud and reek struggled when stumbling blind and weak a wolvish shape came staggering forth and reached the foothills of the north. Upon its back there folded lay a crumpled thing that blinked at day. The rocks were reared like bony teeth, like claws that grasped from opened sheath on either side of the mournful road that onward led to that abode, far up within a mountain dark, with tunnels drear and portals stark. They crept within a scowling shade, and cowering darkly down them laid. Long lurked they there beside the path, and shivered, dreaming of Doriath, of laughter and music and clean air, in fluttered leaves birds singing fair. They woke and felt the trembling sound, the beating echo far underground shake beneath them, the rumor vast of Morgoth's forges, and aghast they heard the tramp of stony feet that shod with iron went down that street. The orcs went forth to rape and war, and Balrog captains marched before. They stirred, and under cloud and shade at eve stepped forth, and no more stayed, as dark things on dark errand bent, up the long slopes in haste they went. Ever the sheer cliffs rose beside, where birds of carrion wheeled and cried, and chasms black and smoking yawned, whence writhing serpent shapes were spawned. Until at last, in that huge gloom, heavy as overhanging doom that weighs on Thangorodrim's foot, like thunder at the mountain's root, they came, as to a somber court, walled with great towers, fort on fort of cliffs embattled, to that last plain that opens, abysmal and inane, before the final topless wall of Bauglader's immeasurable hall, where under looming awful waits the gigantic shadow of his gates. Wow. Man, that was vivid. That was really vivid. I mean, I obviously had read it before I did today's recording, but there's something about reading it out loud. I always say this about Tolkien that just brings it to life, and that sure did, and it's an ugly place. At first, the star of today's show is, of course, Huan, the Hound of Valinor, speaking once more. And now that he's spoken twice, right, first to Luthien to help her escape the impromptu prison of Hiralorn, and now here, he can speak only once more before his death. So be quiet, Huan, please. Now, if you can only speak 3 times, you better make sure that what you say is good. And Huan does that here, providing Beren and Luthien with great advice, but not before reminding Beren that his plan of tackling this solo isn't going to work. He has to choose either exile or oath, and Luthien must in thy dying share. Hard words for hard truth, but Beren needs them. Before the Hound then provides some tactical advice about doing a little werewolf and bat cosplay for Morgoth's Halloween party. And it's those terrible shapes that they take before journeying towards Morgoth's halls. A journey that will continue next week. And folks, that is it for today's First Stage Friday, but come back next week for more as we get a flashback of Fingolfin's mighty stand against Morgoth. Now, eventually, I will return to Fandom Fridays, so if you know anybody who should join me here for a future Fandom Friday, just email barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. And visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and more. And then join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times as we wrap up the week with Silmarillion Saturday, and we work our way towards the dramatic end of the Akallabeth. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.